Good afternoon. I think we're live. Welcome to Tea with Mimi. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Mimi.
It's great to see you. This is musicologist Stephen Fisher, and I'm going to officially introduce you in just a few moments while we allow our friends to join us virtually at this show. And I really can't believe that it's already episode 24 of Tea with Mimi, the live stream show that I started at the beginning of the first lockdown period of the COVID pandemic, just to be able to play music and share conversation with people at that very dark time. And it was just really low tech on my phone, just playing and talking. And I'm glad that through this software, StreamYard, I am able to have guests. So it's very special to see you again, my friend Steve, and also to get to talk about the wonderful CPE Bach today.
And I brought him along.
Oh, let's see. Yes, I love your CPE Bach shirt. That's what we all need, I think.
It's the official T-shirt of the CPE Bach Complete Works.
Wow, you don't see those on the street that often, but you should, right? So today we're celebrating musical birthdays, and that's the theme of the program. March 8th is the birthday of Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, so we're going to start with some of his music. But first, let me introduce you to everybody who's watching. Stephen Fisher was staff editor of the CPE Bach, the Complete Works collection, published between 2004 and 2008. As a musicologist, he taught at the University of Pennsylvania, Widener University, and Rutgers University. He has published many articles specifically on CPE Bach, Haydn, other topics for the Grove Dictionary of Music, very important source that we all use as musicians, articles on Mozart. And as a violist, he performs in chamber music and orchestral settings. And we met in Philadelphia through, I think, Penn and mutual friend connections. And you've spoken for Dolce Suono Ensemble's panel discussion on trio sonatas of the Baroque. That was years ago. But it's just always great to see you, Steve, and to know that you're just an email or a phone call away when I have a need for advice on Baroque and classical music. And actually, there was one specific thing I asked you about the piece we're going to hear, the CPE Bach solo sonata. But first, it would be great to just hear you talk a little bit about your relationship with CPE Bach.
All right. Well, my primary focus for most of my career as a musicologist has been Haydn. I've actually rediscovered several missing compositions of his. Early on in my career, I was able to get into some archives that hadn't been properly exploited and find some very good stuff there. And then the opportunity came to join the staff of the CPE Bach edition in 2004. And it was a logical move because CPE Bach and Haydn had the greatest respect for each other. And Haydn clearly paid a lot of attention to what CPE Bach was doing. And there are a number of places in his music where you can see he's thinking in terms of something that CPE Bach had been doing. And so I spent 4 years up there in Cambridge, and then I left the editorial staff, but continued to work for them. I edited a couple of volumes of pieces he called sonatinas, which are actually for keyboard and instrumental ensemble or even orchestra. And the edition is now just about complete.
Wow.
It brought out the first volume when I was there. In fact, I was the in-house editor for it. But yeah. I handled orchestral music.
And you gave me a beautiful edition of some of the flute concertos of CPE Bach from this collection, and I'm so grateful to you for that. But also, I just want to flag one thing you said, because this story has always stayed with me. I mean, how thrilling must it have been to discover Haydn pieces that had not been discovered before? I mean, really finding this music. That is so amazing. Very few people get to do that. Wow.
Yeah. None of the pieces I discovered was totally new and out of the blue. A couple of them actually had Hoboken numbers waiting for them.
Oh, so they were
locked. We had catalog entries who knew the piece existed. I just happened to find the only surviving copy.
That is incredible. So they were officially lost until they were found by
Yeah.
you, I guess. Wow, that is incredible. Well, I'm going to introduce, in this case, the solo sonata. And as a flutist, this piece is very iconic. It is the only unaccompanied flute work that CPE Bach wrote, just like his father, Johann Sebastian Bach, wrote one unaccompanied flute piece, the Great Partita. They're both in A minor, which is interesting. And you can also really see the progression of Baroque style from the father to the son. What we're getting in the CPE Bach piece is a lot of contrast, dramatic forte to piano that he marks, or short notes to long notes, that sort of staccato legato contrast, a lot of leaps from low to high and back again. I think it's safe to say we're getting some style galant, this late Baroque style that emphasized contrast and sort of a foreshadowing of the Sturm und Drang, storm and release, I guess, that Haydn was known for. And then if you look even a little ahead, some musicologists compare that to a kind of early romanticism. I'd love to get your comments on that level of drama in the music.
All right. Well, yeah, the CPE Bach starts out in the mold of his father, who was his only teacher. And then he becomes, exposed to more, new elements that are entering the style, especially from Italy. That's really where the innovations are happening, and they're spreading up into the German-speaking countries. And so as time goes on, his music becomes less Baroque and more galant, or even classical. And he had an amazingly long career for an 18th century composer, in that he's still writing new stuff that's being widely accepted into his 60s. And most composers of that era seem to hit a wall around the age of 40. They're doing something, and they're doing it successfully, and they do it for a decade or two, and then tastes change, style moves on, and they're just not enjoying much success anymore. Even somebody like Antonio Salieri, who was really one of the most popular composers in Europe in the 1780s, after he turns 40 in 1790, his operatic career dries up. Fortunately for him, he has a position at the Viennese court, and he's able to continue actively performing and teaching and so on. Beethoven, Schubert, and Liszt as pupils. But,
that's fascinating, especially because
as a composer, he got very little recognition after that point. But it happens to other people. Poor Boccherini, for instance, in his 40s, his patrons start to die off. He's not finding new ones. He's apparently not getting a lot of money out of publications, and he's really in very poor economic circumstances the last years of his life. Wonderful composer though he is.
Absolutely. And this is fascinating to hear, because I think sometimes we think of the famous composers of the past as kind of monolithic, them and their oeuvre and their life. But of course, they went through all these vicissitudes, and just the very idea that some of them really hit a wall at 40 in terms of their popularity. But I guess CPE Bach was able to keep adjusting stylistically as well, in a way that kept his music before the public eye. That's really such a great insight. Thank you, Steve. I think we're going to listen to the piece. The piece was published in 1763. It's in 3 movements. It's not specifically dance-based like some of the earlier Baroque partitas are, for example, by J.S. Bach, but I felt very danceable in especially the faster movement. So I'm going to share this new recording now, released for the birthday, and then we're going to chat a little bit more about this great composer after. So let me just get that share going. And then we can mute ourselves, Steve, while that's happening. And here we go.
By the way, this is what the first edition of the sonata looked like.
Oh, fantastic. That is great to see. Actually, I can share that after in a moment. Okay, I'll see you on the other side. Oh, now we're back.
Beautiful performance.
Thank you so much. I always get nervous hearing myself perform, and then I was thinking, oh, I have the world's leading CPE Bach scholars. I sure hope he likes it.
It was great. Yeah, I particularly like that you did a little bit with those fermatas. I think a little something is supposed to happen there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was really rethinking in some ways for this recent video, some of the interpretation and just really seeing the drama in the score itself and just wanting to bring that out even more. And actually, you heard the repeats. You gave me the courage to do that because I was thinking it'd be really fun to do both repeats, which is often not done in this type of movement where the second half is actually not a half. It's quite a bit longer than the first part. But I thought it's a little bit like having a little more of a good thing. And I checked with you and I guess you thought it was okay. So I felt more confident with that decision, which was certainly very nice to do, just having a little bit more of it and hearing those differences in terms of repeating in those fast movements. I'm actually sharing right now what we talked about. I'll try to get us in as well. Here we are. Just a little bit from the manuscript of CPE Bach of the piece. I think it's coming out small, but this is available on IMSLP on the internet. And I think you have it there too. So there's a little bit of the music itself from the hand, right, Steve? This is actually the handwriting of CPE Bach. Or is this another?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a little small.
I need to look at it closely. It looks like a copyist rather than the composer. His own manuscripts are legible, but not for display that way. I was not involved in editing this particular piece, so I don't know the source situation very well.
Come to think of it, it didn't say holograph manuscript. I think you're right. I think it's a copyist, but still from the time period, which is pretty neat. So it's been so wonderful having you introduce this piece with me today. I want to just thank everyone who's listening and say hello to you. We have some really nice comments. Victor Coco, Krista Hansen, Adrian Lamon, Stefan Boberg. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your lovely comments. Ronnie Gordon, Chairman of the Board of Dolce Suono Ensemble. And Mom, thank you for your beautiful comment. Great to have you here. And she's saying hi to you, Steve, too. So we're going to bring in our next guest at the same time. And maybe I'll ask you all what you're drinking because you know each other. Composer Jeremy Gill is about to come into the stream as well. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome. I guess you two haven't met for a while in person.
Not for a while, but we used to know each other fairly well.
Yeah.
And what is everything?
I played under his baton a few times. And of course, he was in the graduate program at Penn when I was around the department there. So,
yeah.
That's so nice. What are we all drinking today at Tea with Mimi? Who has tea? Who has something else? Steve, what do you have today?
This is Earl Grey.
Delicious.
So I'm not drinking it yet, but coming up after, this is a Hungarian wine that I'm trying because I have a Hungarian friend coming to town in a couple of weeks. So I'm getting in the spirit.
That sounds delicious. And everybody, please say hi to us if you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, ask any questions you want, and also let us know what you're drinking today at Tea with Mimi. So once again, Steve, thank you so much for being here and sharing your thoughts about CPE Bach and helping celebrate his birthday.
Now, before I go, I would like to make a plug for the complete edition.
Please.
The volumes are heavily subsidized, so they are quite cheap to buy. The website is www.cpebach.org, and it's easy enough to find them on Amazon too. And they have both the large scores with the critical reports and miniature scores of a lot of pieces too.
Right. I mean, they're beautiful in blue and gold and have even more importantly, great scholarly material in there. Yeah.
All the woodwind material was edited by somebody who is an experienced, well-known, established performer. And Bartol Kaiken, of course, did the flute concertos. I mean, you don't get any better than that in the Baroque flute world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mary Leskowitz edited the flute chamber music, including the sonata you just played. She's a well-known Baroque flutist. And the oboe concertos were edited by Janet Page, who's at the University of Memphis, who's again an established Baroque oboist.
And that's so important to have scholarly editions with the provenance of everything. So once again, that's fantastic. I want to say hi to some of our people listening. Jessica Howell, if I'm saying your name correctly, I hope so. Thank you for your message. Hello. Faith Wasson, thanks for your beautiful message and comment. Yes, as a fellow flutist, I'm glad you approved the doing all the repeats. That is great to hear. I'm feeling very supported in this decision. So once more, Steve, thank you. We're going to turn to Jeremy, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. And I'll be seeing you soon, Steve, hopefully.
Good to see you, Steve.
Thank you. Welcome, my dear friend, Jeremy Gill.
Thank you.
I'm going to officially introduce you a little bit to people. Oh, we're getting siren in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I just muted for 1 second. This is Jeremy Gill, composer, conductor, and pianist, and friend of mine. And I can attest that he is great at all three of those things because I've worked with you in all three capacities. we're going to talk about and listen to some music that I premiered that you wrote for me. But first, a little bit more about your work as composer. Jeremy Gill's music has been performed by major orchestras, including the Dallas Symphony, the Chautauqua Symphony, the Harrisburg Symphony, by the American Opera Project, commissioned also from the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts, and American Composers Forum. He's won many awards, including from the American Academy of Arts and Letters and the League of American Orchestras. That's just partial highlights of your career, Jeremy. But specifically in terms of our collaboration, I'm going to share a solo flute movement from Parabasis for flute and piano, which you wrote for me and Charles Abramovic, and we recorded. But we also commissioned you from Dolce Suono Ensemble to write a piece for our trio plus voice, flute, cello, and piano, ode, a dramatic cantata. And I had also recorded your earlier flute and guitar piece with guitarist Alan Krantz, the music for kites, and played some other pieces that you've written. So it's so nice to revisit something with you today. And I'd love to have you introduce that work and maybe share a little bit what you're doing these days.
Sure. So which do you want first?
Maybe your updates, and then we'll talk about Penidos.
Okay. Well, I, like so many other composers and performers, etc., I'm so happy to be back to actually playing for people and presenting, concerts for people again after a long time away. So I have a couple of premieres coming up that have been in the works for a long time. So one is a string quartet concerto that I'm very excited about with the Parker Quartet and New York classical players. That'll be premiered in New York on April 1st. And actually the very next day up in Boston, the Chameleon Arts Ensemble will premiere a flute, viola, and harp trio. So that's my first time writing for that arrangement of instruments. So that'll be a wonderful thing too. And then coming up in the Philadelphia area, I'll get to work again with this wonderful trumpet player who's actually finishing up at Curtis right now, Alan Tolbert. He's going to play the area premiere of a quintet that he premiered in September. He'll play that in April on his graduation recital from Curtis. And I'll come back in May for the release party for Variant 6, which is a really fantastic vocal sextet based there in Philadelphia. And they premiered a piece of mine about 5 years ago, and this is their first full-length commercial recording. They'll do a release party here in New York and then in Philadelphia on May 21st. And that recording is fantastic. They're just such a great group, and it's really fun to work with them. So that's what's going on right now for me.
Well, congratulations on these upcoming premieres and performances and releases. And I can't wait to hear the music involving flute, but also all the other pieces as well. And so before we share this movement, I think what's so interesting in this work, Parabasis, and also in Ode, which you wrote for Dolce Suono Ensemble, your inspiration from ancient Greek culture. How does that affect what we're about to hear?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I knew that they would both be about ancient Greece in a way. It was sort of like a happy accident, I guess. But Parabasis, that was inspired really by just a couple of sentences from an essay by Roland Barthes, a French semiologist. And he doesn't say much about the Parabasis as a form, but what he did say was just sort of evocative enough that I wanted to create something out of his description. And he talks about the Parabasis as a section within Old Greek comedy in which the choristers, so the famous Greek chorus, they, Parabasis means violation, and they violate their role as a chorister by removing their robes, which distinguishes them as a chorister, and address the audience directly. So it's this moment in the theatrical production when essentially they break the fourth wall and they go right to the audience. And I like that idea a lot because it's always been very important to me for music to be strongly expressive and um, and communicative. So I like that idea of sort of stepping out of the artifice and kind of getting right to the meat of the argument, whatever that would be. I was also at that particular time really interested in the idea of human universals. So, sort of, what are the elements that are kind of common to known cultures around the world? There's myriad ways of making music, of making art, of making language, etc. But what are the things that we have in common? What are the things that we sort of, as humans, need to express to one another through music, through art, etc.? So this was to go back to what essentially for me is an imagined past. I'm not a Greek scholar. I don't know anything about. I have no personal connection. So even though it is foundational to Western civilization, it might as well be, a Martian civilization for me. It was totally free for me to kind of make up a world, but sort of base it on what seemed like these fundamental, basic human ideas.
I really like that intellectual component so much of this score. I think it really comes out. I think it's something that gives the performers a lot to think about and learn from. And on the ground in Penigos, that is the suffocation movement, right?
Yeah.
I always wondered about that. What are you trying to do to me, Jeremy?
I think we said a couple of times when you played it early on, I had to come out and say that no flutists would be harmed in the performance of this piece. Yep.
Yeah, luckily so. But so you were inspired by this actual ancient Greek word and concept, and I guess embedding it into writing for flute, one of the most ancient instruments.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so the Penigos was a part within the parabasis, and essentially it's sort of like a pattern number, right, where you would get as much text out as possible in one breath. You just go recite. When you're out of air, you're done with that idea. So that idea of taking in the case of Penigos, the piece for you, it's a single note or a single gesture and sort of going all the way until you're out of air, restarting, out of air, restarting, out of air.
Right. Well, with that thought in mind and so vivid, let's share it, and then we'll talk a little bit more on the other side.
Great.
Okay. Great. So I'm just going to set up the share. And while I do that, everyone, thanks for being here with us. We welcome your comments and questions, or just say hi and let us know where you're watching from. This video will also stay up afterwards, so you could revisit it or share it with friends. Or if you came in later on, you can go back and hear the CPE Bach, which was first today. Okay, Jeremy Gill's Penigos from Parabasis.
Bravo!
Thank you, bravo to you.
You know, it's funny. It's an old piece now. You know, it's 15 years old or something, and it's just thinking about what was kind of the things that I was thinking about then when I was writing the pieces. How to structure a solo piece like this in the absence of tonality, right? So with the Bach that you just played a little bit ago, it's really clear when you're in the A section and the B section, the tonality is different, even if the musical material is similar. And without that tonality, you need something else to make those signposts happen. And in this piece, it's really all about those registers and the tempos. But to focus on that highest register, the middle register, back to the highest, go to the lowest, and at the end, with those gigantic Barber pole swoops that you do, you know, you're bringing it all together, sort of finally going to a tonic of registers in the way there at the end.
Well, I always feel very clear pitch areas in your music in terms of your relationship with tonality. There are prominent pitches or centers that I feel as a performer we can hang on to. And then as you described it from low, middle, and high, you really explore so well different colors of the flute. And it's a great workout. Obviously, that very insistent, harsh, in one breath feeling with, I didn't want to say it before because it's sometimes great to just experience the piece, but how you have a sforzando or kind of forceful exhalation at the end of these long phrases is very typical of what you're doing, I guess, with the idea and themes. Yeah. So that's also coming out really clearly as and a fun thing to do in this. So once again, bravo on this piece. And, you know, I just want to share the album that it's on, that we recorded Bravos on one of your chamber music recordings. That's Charlie and I did that. My duo pianist Charles Abramovic. Do you see it now? Are you seeing that? Let me try to scroll down. Yeah. So this is just from my website, but here is the CD that we did it on. So if anyone wants to check it out or hear the whole piece, that's a great way of doing that. And yeah, and actually this feature of your piece is part of a larger project Dolce Suono Ensemble is doing this spring called Dolce Suono Trio Plus Minus. So plus will be trio plus another artist, and minus means also duos and solos are featured by American composers. And so that's Spotlight on Jeremy Gill as part of Dolce Suono Trio Plus Minus. And we were also honored to receive a grant from the Alice M. Ditson Fund at Columbia University to help bring out some of these pieces this spring. Thank you so much. And once again, it's great to see you, Jeremy, and to chat a little bit about music and to hear what you're doing. So I can't wait for the next time. And I think we have a question too and a comment. Victor Coco, thank you for your lovely comment. And Ronnie Gordon, thank you for yours. She asks, how has your music evolved since this Greek-inspired piece? And she was really said it's great hearing the piece again. Yeah, Jeremy, thanks for the question.
You know, I think this was an early piece for me. It's relatively soon after getting out of grad school, and it was one of the first big. Actually, I think I only wrote one bigger chamber piece in the many years since this piece. So it still is kind of a very big piece, and it was because I was writing for you. That's why it's a big piece. I mean, for real. I like the flute and piano repertoire is wonderful, but there are a fair number of sort of little ditties. Not to be judgmental, but there are a fair number of little ditties, and I didn't want to write a little ditty because as a musician, I wanted to try to write something that was worthy of the breadth of your musicianship, you specifically. And so writing this piece was a way to sort of stretch my own musicality as much as I could as a composer and see if I could create a really big canvas that would be engaging to somebody with your depth of artistry. So that was a big deal with this piece. And I think since this piece, I feel like I continue to do that. I continue to try to engage the musicians I'm writing for in kind of the most fundamental musical ways that I can. Try to find the things that fire them up as musicians. Like, why do you get up in the morning and play, I don't know, whatever you play in the morning, the CPE Bach? Why do you do it? Because it gives you a lot of pleasure to do it. Right? There's something very engaging about being with that work, about making those sounds, about feeling the music coming through you. And so I keep trying to find ways to do that. And I think with Parabasis at this point in my life, I think I was a bit rougher around the edges. I'm much more refined now, is what I'm trying to say. So, your mom asks, how's my music different? I think I definitely am trying to explore fun, actually, and lyricism and joy. And I think at this particular time, I was much more invested in kind of exploring the dark side of human, darker side of human nature, human existence. I think they're both important, tremendously important. But I was more focused on one than trying to focus more on the other now.
Well, that's so interesting to hear your evolution as an artist. And it really, Jeremy, it means a tremendous amount to me that you were inspired by my playing to contribute this substantial work to the repertoire for us, for flute and piano. And I know you know this heritage of, let's say, very fine, bigger 20th and 21st century sonatas so well. I mean, you were an oboist, right? First or early in your life. And but I know that you're thinking probably about some other great sonatas. I mean, I can mention my favorites, including Prokofiev and Poulenc and Piston and Duos by Copland and Schulhoff, a lot of 20th century good works. But I wonder if you were thinking a little bit about earlier flute music or just kind of...
Well, one we were playing around this time was the De Tuyeux Sonatine, and that definitely, even in this Panigos, there are little bits that are very clearly reference the De Tuyeux, which he, of course, later didn't avow as one of his mature works, but I think it's a great piece. So yeah, of course, there are definitely those big meaty pieces. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's it. Once again, it's just so great to have this talk with you, to share some of your music. Thank you for your music and friendship and for spending some of your afternoon here with me, Jeremy.
Well, thanks for playing all that you play. A lot of new music by a lot of composers. And I will say on behalf of all of us, thank you. Not only for playing it, but for being the musician that you are. That in itself is tremendously inspiring.
Thank you so much. That means a tremendous amount coming from you, Jeremy. So thank you. And it's fun. It's fun to keep building the repertoire for ourselves and for others, and onward to the next. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Yeah. And so I'm going to now probably just say goodbye for now to you while we transition to our next bit of music. Thanks, Jeremy. And again, this link will stay up for anyone who's watching to share or see again if you came in later. So thanks again. You're welcome to send comments and questions, and see you soon, Jeremy.
Okay.
Bye. Bye. And we're just going to continue our birthday celebration a little bit with music by Maurice Ravel. His birthday was yesterday, March 7th, and I'm so pleased to share the first movement of his sonatine. This is a famous work that the great composer wrote for piano, which our Dolce Suono Ensemble pianist, my duo partner and dear friend of 20 years, Charles Abramovic, arranged for our trio. And it was very generous of him to do this in the sense that it is a virtuosic piano work, very well known in the repertoire for solo piano. And Charlie decided to share some notes with Gabe Cabezas, our cellist, and me in terms of expanding it out to flute, cello, piano. But there is a precedent for this with this piece, in that the harpist Carlos Salcedo made a version for flute, cello and harp, which also exists for flute, viola, and harp, which I've played many times. And when Charlie did this, in a sense, he explored with even more range, let's say, the interest that Ravel had in timbre, in color, by adding the flute and the cello to this work. So I'm going to share the first movement of the Ravel sonatine, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it after. Let me just hook up that share. I should also say that the CPE Bach video was so beautifully engineered. Audio engineer Eugene Liu and videographer Samantha Robinson. You're going to see some more of her video work now from our Dolce Suono Trio virtual concert last spring, 2021. And audio engineer for that is Drew Schlegel. That was Ravel Sonatine, first movement modéré, arranged from the piano work for flute, cello, piano by Charles Abramovic. And it's just really such a privilege, such a blessing to spend time with music today, when we're watching 2 weeks of this horrific war on Ukraine. And I just wanted to mention that our thoughts and prayers are with Ukrainian people. Sometimes I just turn to music when I don't have words about something. So I just wanted to share this Ravel, and also the Barber piece that I'm about to share as well, is very comforting. And that's kind of why I chose these two works today, in keeping with our celebration of some really important composers' birthdays. So Ravel's birthday was yesterday. And tomorrow, March 9th, is the birthday of great American composer Samuel Barber, my fellow graduate of the Curtis Institute of Music, best known for his Adagio for strings, among many other works, of course. And I'm going to be sharing his Canzone for flute and piano, which he based on the slow movement of his piano concerto. And before I do that, also just want to invite you all to Dolce Suono Ensemble's next concert is Sunday, March 13th in Philadelphia. It's our Música en tus manos, or Music in Your Hands program, which explores the chamber music and popular music of Latin America, and is part of our larger engagement initiative with the Latino community of Philadelphia. So that's if you're within striking distance of Philadelphia. But we also, since the pandemic, have been making virtual video versions, which are available from anywhere in the world and released 3 weeks after each date. And there's still time to subscribe actually to the whole season. So definitely check out dolcesuono.com for information about that. We'd love to have you, whether it's in person or virtually. I'm looking at the comments. Thank you for your comments. We love hearing from you. Your questions are welcome. We can always get to you later after the show. Marion Sachs, thank you for your comment today. It was great to have you here listening. I'm going to close with Samuel Barber's Canzone for flute and piano from a Dolce Suono Ensemble performance I gave with Charles Abramovic. And this is kind of vintage. This is when we celebrated the centennial of Samuel Barber in 2010. He was born in 1910. So I'm just going to get that share going. Hope you enjoy the music. such a stunning work by Samuel Barber, the Canzone for Flute and Piano, making me want to play it immediately as soon as possible again. Thank you all so much for being here. Oh, Roger Blood, dear Roger and Sarah, grazie Mimi. Oh, grazie a tutti. Thank you, friends, for being here, for your beautiful comment. And hey, Mom. Okay, I'm gonna.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Roger. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Steve.
Oh yeah, it was great to have Jeremy and Steve, surprise. Well, I brought everyone's here to say goodbye. We're going to sign up the show. Once again, it was wonderful having you, Jeremy, Steve. You added so much to the day for me. It was great to talk to you and share that with listeners. So thanks again. And CPE Bach. Happy birthday once more, CPE Bach. Thank you, team. Thank you, audience. Can't wait to see you again soon, live next time. Bye, everybody.